Hey everyone. Today we're going to be disassembling, cleaning, inspecting, and reassembling this Rock Island 1911. Before getting underway, we will verify that this firearm is unloaded. We assume all firearms are loaded until we verified that it is not loaded. So we will pick up the pistol and depress the magazine catch to release the magazine. Checking the magazine, we see there's no ammunition in it. Then we'll pull the slide back, locking it in the open position by lifting up on the slide stop. Inspecting now within the chamber, we see there's no ammunition in it. We can look straight down to the bottom, no ammunition. From the bottom to the top, no ammunition. And then once more, we inspect the chamber one more time. This pistol's not loaded. We pull back on the slide to release it, and this pistol is cleared. I'll point out that I do avoid dry firing, so you will see me squeeze the trigger while holding the hammer and releasing the hammer slowly back into the forward position. With the pistol now safely unloaded, we will point our attention to the barrel bushing as well as the recoil spring plug. This can either be pushed down with the fingers, as well there is a special tool to release the barrel bushing. A drift can also be used. We could see that this is not a stock recoil spring plug, so your mileage may vary. This is also one of those times an unloaded gun could take your eye out, so eye protection is recommended. I'll demonstrate using my fingers first, depressing the recoil spring plug so that I could rotate the barrel bushing clockwise, always keeping my finger on the recoil spring plug because it's under a lot of tension. Once the barrel bushing reaches the 9 o'clock position, I could slowly release tension on the recoil spring and plug, and this step is completed. Using the barrel bushing tool that came with my Kimber, it's form-fitting to the barrel bushing. I press down and rotate clockwise, and then slowly lift up, releasing tension from the recoil spring. I'm demonstrating this, don't do this at home, but we can see that on this recoil spring plug, I put it at the 90, but it still grabs on to the ledge. So even with my finger away, it's holding on. So I have to push downward to release it. So it's just something to point out that there is some nuance there. Even when it's turned on 90 degrees, it can get stuck sometimes. So now I remove the recoil spring plug and put it off to the side. The safety should be in the off-down position, which it was from when we cleared the firearm. I pulled the hammer back. We draw our attention to this small half circle on the slide, which we will be aligning to the center of this notch. The slide has no spring tension, so it is pulled back into position. We have a close-up of that half circle directly over the notch. And with that positioned, we can push on this little bump right here on this side of the pistol. It is just the other end of the slide stop protruding outward, and we see it come out, and now we can pull out that entire slide stop and put it off to the side. Now holding the grip and the slide, we could gently pull the slide all the way forward and off of the frame, detaching this pistol into two components. Draw attention to the slide. Now the setup on this pistol is slightly different, but I could remove this recoil spring by pulling away from the first two rungs. On others, a slight turn in the opposite direction of the coil and then pulling away would free it off of the guide. Then I could lift the recoil spring guide towards the rear, up and out of the slide. On some pistols, the spring and guide could be removed at the same time, and then the spring could be removed from it. The barrel bushing is indexed, so you see here spun around the 4 o'clock position. It can be removed from the slide. Ensuring that this barrel link is pushed forward, we can see it pivots. We can then push the entire barrel right out the front of the slide. And now we have disassembled the complete slide for general cleaning and inspection. I'll be using my standard pistol cleaning kit with associated attachments, along with my nylon brush, Q-tips, patches, FP10 gun oil, and Hops No. 9 solvent. Our cleaning begins with the slide. We'll be using a patch. I've put solvent onto it. Concerning myself right now with just the inside of the slide. As I start wiping it down, I have a look and I see a lot of debris and accumulation. So this is definitely ready for a cleaning. A lot by the firing pin and extractor. So I'm going to start cleaning everything up as far as my fingers can reach right now. Distributing the solvent as I go, letting it do its thing. This patch is doing a good job to pull a lot of debris out. Not much life left in it though. Eventually I needed the brush to get in there to the hard to reach places. So I wrapped it around the brush and just continued my work getting in those tracks. All along those tracks need to be nice and clean. There's a lot of accumulation in there on both sides. In the front, I'm able to use the brush to get into those areas, cleaning out those recesses of the locking lugs, swapping out patches as necessary. Again, paying close attention around the firing pin and the extractor, those corners there where there's a lot of accumulation we see right over here on the patch. Using the brush without the patch just to break up a lot of that debris. And then using a patch to get under the extractor. I have a separate video that talks about removing the firing pin and extractor for further cleaning, but that's not part of a general cleaning. Then a dry patch will be used to remove all of that solvent. A clean dry patch also gives you an indication as to how well the cleaning is going. Of course, that patch is going to collect a lot of dirty solvent, especially when you're digging in areas with the brush. And finally, a clean patch goes over everything just for inspection purposes. Zero dirt on the patch, outstanding. We'll use that patch now with some solvent just to clean the outside of the slide, give it a once over, and then wipe that slide down with a clean patch. We conduct a visual. This slide is inspection ready. Outstanding. We'll put this off to the side and continue on with our next piece. Next will be the barrel. A significant amount of wear on the outside by the barrel link. The rifling looks completely impacted with debris. We'll start with a patch and solvent to clean the outside of the barrel. Everything on the outside of the barrel is readily accessible, so it's not difficult at all. I do use a brush to get into the corners of these locking lugs. I clean and inspect here. The ramp in and around the barrel link is also cleaned up to remove any debris. And I saw a little flake of metal come off, a genuine piece of the rock island. No need to wipe down the barrel yet, though. There's more work to do. I've assembled my bore brush from my kit and ensured that the brush says 45 on it. With solvent applied to the brush from the breech or rear of the barrel, I push it through and then back and repeat this several times in succession. A clean patch is wrapped around the brush and it is then pushed through the barrel. I know that the rifling is in a bad way, so I want to get an idea of what we're looking at. And we could see a lot of the debris coming off onto the patch. Leaves a nice pattern. I don't pull the brush back through, I remove it, slide the rod back, reattach the brush, and repeat the procedure. And while patches were looking cleaner in succession, it just got to the point where no more dirt was coming out of the rifling. So a repeat of solvent and the brush was conducted again, this time waiting about 10 minutes after this was done before inspecting with the patch. And we could see more was coming up from out of the barrel as a result of this. And things were improving. But there was still more work to be done. So another round of brushing was conducted and waiting half an hour, where now we were seeing real results. And the bore and rifling is now clean as compared to the before shown on the top right corner. So a dramatic difference. Very happy. We'll be oiling this later. The barrel will now be placed off to the side. Onto the barrel bushing. Again, we'll use a patch with solvent to clean the entire bushing, both inside and out. I use a brush to assist with the cleaning of the inside of the bushing, rotating it in the bushing. After this, the barrel bushing is wiped down with a clean patch and it is placed off to the side. Next will be the slide stop, also wiped down with a patch and solvent, getting in all of those areas to make sure that all the debris is removed. And then wipe down with a clean patch. Same thing for the recoil spring plug. Outside is cleaned with solvent and a patch like everything else. I have found for the inside, at least on this particular one, that the use of a wooden dowel was helpful to make sure that everything inside was cleaned out. This will then be wiped down with a clean patch and be put off to the side. Next is the recoil spring guide, which will be wiped down with a patch with solvent. Paying attention to this area here in the rear to make sure that all the dirt is removed, and then give everything a good wipe down with a clean rag. This part will be put off to the side. The recoil spring is next. I wrap it in a patch with solvent and gently twist it through the patch to remove any debris that's on the spring. And we could see the spring dirt marks left in the patch. I repeat that process with a clean patch and put it off to the side. Finally, we make our way to the frame, where a patch with solvent is used to clean anywhere where I see dirt or debris, and I see a lot of it, especially by this feed ramp. So I'm going to start my cleaning in and around the center, work my way outward, and this patch is pulling up a lot of debris. So new patches are used as needed, and the brush is used in conjunction with the patch to clean the rails and other hard to reach areas. It's important that the rails are as clean as possible on both sides. We can see a lot of debris in there. Also up here in and around the hammer is cleaned out. Following up with a clean patch to remove all the solvent, as well as checking my work. Using the brush with the clean patch to get into all those hard to reach areas. Finally, we take another clean patch so we could conduct an inspection of the work. A clean patch and brush is pushed into the magazine well and cleaned on both sides to ensure that there's no more debris in there either. There was some residual debris and it was removed. This area here by the feed ramp was especially dirty, but now everything on this frame is nice and clean. Now I give the outside of the frame a quick wipe down with a patch with a light amount of solvent on it just to remove any debris that might be on the outside. Final visual inspection of the frame shows it to be nice and clean. A view from up under the magwell, and the rails are clean as well. I did miss a tiny bit of dirt on the forward side of the hammer, but I've removed it right now. The area below the feed ramp did prove to be clean with the Q-tip, so everything here is good. With the frame in hand, we'll begin lubrication with this part. Using our FP10, I apply a single drop of oil to the forwardmost section of the hammer, and using the trigger in conjunction with the hammer, I bring the hammer back and forth several times to distribute the oil. Then I apply a drip of oil to the front and back of each side of the rails. Now I could distribute this oil with my fingernail going back and forth, taking the excess and just rubbing it up top, repeating the same thing on the other side. But a wooden dowel, end of a Q-tip, or a toothpick might be more effective to distribute the oil evenly. I use this Q-tip to remove any excess oil from the forward portion of the hammer. The rails look properly oiled on both sides as well as the hammer. Now I'll apply some oil right up top on the top portion, and that's it. We're looking good. Now a patch with a small amount of oil will be used to rub the inside parts that are not being lubricated, but just to protect the metal. A final light oiling on the face of the rails, and this is completed. One more check of the oiling on the sides, and this is looking good. A little bit of oil dripped down from the hammer area, but I just wiped that away. We'll move on to the next piece for lubrication. Next will be the barrel, and we'll be lubricating the bore first using the brush and a patch, as well as some oil this time, and pushing that patch through a couple of times to evenly coat the bore. It may pull a trace amount of residual dirt from solvent left in the bore, and that's fine. That patch is then used to wipe down every square inch of the barrel. A final bore and rifling inspection is conducted, and it looks fantastic, especially compared to how it looked when we started. Things here look about as good as we could hope for. The chamber is also clean of debris. So now wipe it down with a dry patch to remove any excess oil from the barrel. A final visual inspection of the barrel before we proceed shows everything looks good. I take a small drop of oil and place it on each side of the barrel link pin, just like that, and move the barrel link back and forth a couple times to work it in, and then another drop of oil, and apply it to the locking lugs. I then wipe away the excess. Everything is lubricated, everything looks good. We're going to put this barrel off to the side and move on to the next part. Next will be the slide, where all the internal surfaces will be wiped down with an oiled patch. The brush will be used to get the hard to reach areas. Once the internals have a light silhouette of oil, we will put a drip of oil on the inside of this rail, moving that wooden dowel all the way back and forth or our fingernail to distribute it evenly. The same thing will happen on the other side. Wiping away the excess. Oil is then applied here at this area for the locking lugs. Everything on the slide is now cleaned and properly lubricated. So we put it off to the side and move on to the slide stop. Again, this will be wiped down with an oiled patch completely and then wiped down with a dry patch to leave a light coat of oil. We'll put this off to the side and move on to the barrel bushing. Same procedure as before, but I do leave the outside of the bushing with a little bit more oil than the other parts. The recoil spring guide is next and will also receive a light coat of oil and placed off to the side. This is followed by the recoil spring plug, same procedure. And then the recoil spring, which is wrapped in a patch with oil in it and then spun through. Finally, the magazine, which should just be able to get a simple wipe down to remove any residue on it, and that's it. All pieces cleaned, oiled, inspected, and ready for assembly. Beginning with the slide, we'll take the barrel and swing the barrel link so it faces back, pushing it through the front of the slide all the way back until it stops. We can feel the locking lugs on both pieces lock into place. A close-up shows just lifting it up and you can feel it fall down and lock in right here. Lets you know it's seated properly when it falls in. Next will be the recoil spring. This particular one does not have a closed side. It's the same on both sides. We'll assume the right side in this video is the closed side. I will seat the recoil spring guide into the recoil spring and may have to twist the spring to seat it all the way. With the right side facing downward to match the contour of the barrel, the spring can be inserted like so, followed by the guide, and pushed inward into position and backed up against the barrel. Depending on your setup, you might find it easier to first insert the guide into the slide, and once it is seated, pushing it all the way back, insert the spring from the front of the slide, and then twist it to bring it all the way into position. It's very easy to reattach the slide to the frame. We'll go over it slowly. I'm going to put my finger here to support everything as I turn it over, pushing back and upward. The barrel link will hang downward like we see here. The locking lugs on the barrel and slide are locked into place. We could see on the slide and the frame where the rails will interface. The slide slides smoothly onto the frame as I hold everything together. I'm going to use my hand just to cover the spring. As I slide further, we could hear this sort of dead stop. And all we need to do is just touch right over here on the barrel. And we could see it move back just a little bit further. And we're left with two areas to align for the slide stop. With my left hand still gently pushing against the spring, I move the slide to align that half circle into position right here. And then I move the barrel forward to align this hole right here. Both of them now lined up. The slide stop is then inserted in the forward hole on a slightly downward angle, as you see. I realigned the slide slightly, which shifted when I installed the slide stop, but once centered, and it snaps in and up into position. I then push the slide forward, completing this task. The barrel bushing again is indexed and reintroduced at the 4 o'clock position. I rotate it clockwise to the 9 o'clock position, gently deflecting the spring if necessary to accomplish this task. The recoil spring plug is then inserted onto the end of the spring. Then, using either my finger or the tool with eye protection, I compress the spring, start turning the barrel bushing counterclockwise to the 6 o'clock position until everything snaps in. The slide is racked back several times to make sure that there's no binding, and then I release the hammer with the trigger. I repeat this task one more time. Everything feels good. We could do some basic function tests. Using an empty magazine, we insert it into the pistol, and we pull back on the slide, and it should stay locked open. And it does. Very good. We'll pull back on the slide while depressing the slide stop, bringing the slide back forward, and remove the magazine. The entire outside of the pistol will get a light oiling on the outside. And we'll conduct one last function check, pulling back on the slide. The hammer's back. We hit the trigger, it releases. Holding the trigger, we pull back on the slide again. Slowly releasing the trigger. It clicks. Hold the hammer, pull the trigger, and it clicks again. Very good. It's ready to be tested at the range. And that concludes this video on the disassembly, cleaning, inspection, and reassembly of this Rock Island 1911. Here's what we removed from it. I hope you found this video enjoyable, entertaining, and informative. Do me a favor, hit that like button down below. Helps me out a lot when you do. And hit that subscribe button for more videos like this when they come out. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching. Would you like to reply?